Our profession as pharmacists is changing, and I wonder if it's because of what is valuable to society as a whole. In this podcast episode, we're going to be talking through what is value and why it's influencing us as pharmacists.
What was the last thing you bought?
A toy for my daughter's birthday party.
How much was it?
I think it was $12.88.
What was it? Like, do you remember?
I believe it was a dress-up, Fancy Nancy dress-up clothes.
Fancy Nancy dress up.
Like some heels and a tiara and earrings.
Do you think that what you got, the value of Fancy Nancy, was worth $12.88?
No.
But you bought it anyway?
Yeah.
Why?
Because Addie clicked love on that picture that I picked out for her. Well, no, she picked it out. So we go to the store, and she tells me what she likes, and I take pictures of it. And so we go home, and after a day or two, and she doesn't remember anything, we look at the pictures again, and I tell her the 5 things that she really loves.
Yeah.
And that was one of the ones that she really loved.
So, but the value of her being happy because she loves that toy was worth the $12.50.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Value is an odd thing. How do you determine what's valuable? Have you ever looked at someone's purchase of something and you go, why in the world did you buy that? That just seems so ridiculous to buy. And yet, when you buy something, it's almost always justified. Sometimes you're forced into buying something for your partner or a child and you think this is ridiculous, but yet you still do it. So why is that? Is value just based on money and money determines the value of something? Or is it our perception? Is it what we think is valuable and that in turn creates the price point that's on something? Or is value something like internal, that it's deep within us that says, well, because I value this person, a wife, a child, a friend, I'm going to choose to spend money, to spend time, to spend energy with them. I think it's a mixture of both, really. Whenever I'm talking with someone about pharmacy who isn't a pharmacist, I like to ask them what they perceive pharmacists as. Do you think they are valuable to society? Most people say yes, and when I dive a little deeper with them, it's getting to the layers of like what is valuable. And usually people say things like, well, education is valuable, right? There's very few professions that come out of graduate school in which they're not paid significantly well for their work. But besides education, people also value the 2 most essential things that business is practically all about: time and money. Think about the last thing that you had purchased, excluding things that are entertainment or hobbies. You bought it probably to save money or to save time. Think about all of the new businesses that have been starting up that's all about saving time. You think about all the food delivery services. Think about Uber and how it's revolutionized the taxi cab industry. Or think about the kind of garbage bags that you buy. You may look at a set box and think, well, if I buy this one, I will save myself a few cents or dollars versus paying for something else. So education, money, and time, these are all things that are very valuable to society. And how do those interact with pharmacy? Our role as pharmacists, in a very general sense of the term, is to safeguard medications and their use from the public. We are in that place because, well, if we aren't, then it's very likely that people will be harmed by those medications. In a way, we're kind of like the town guard. We are staying vigilant, protecting the citizens from injury and harm from outside forces that would seek to harm and destroy. Sometimes in our cases, that's other healthcare professional team members. Even though we know they have the best intentions, we are here to protect. And yet, sometimes, just like the town guard, we are viewed as troublesome. The same way that people don't like a cop when they are pulled over for speeding. The market perceives pharmacists as valuable. Why? Well, because we have a significant amount of time spent in education, learning the trade of pharmacy. We help people ideally save money with their medication efforts, but we also allow them to live healthy lives, which has other indirect consequences on their money. And we also save time for people. Why? Because, well, we are likely extending the amount of time that a person has healthy, happy time. Because if you think about it, when someone is sick, well, that time is wasted being sick and unhealthy. I'm sure we all love it when a cold happens when we're extremely busy. On the flip side, for money, when you're not working, you are likely losing money. And if you're sick for a prolonged period of time, you're not making any money at all. But money kind of is the ultimate determinator of value, really, in the capitalistic American society. And if you would look at our salaries, well, by comparison to everyone else, we are valued. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, in 2017, the average American household earned $61,000. According to our guide on the Happy PharmD about salaries, which we'll put a link in the description, the average pharmacists make about $129,000, or roughly about twice the amount as the average American household. In turn, because most people want more money, and very few people ever say they want less money, that would mean that the profession of pharmacy is valued. It has value to the society, and it is providing value by protecting lives, in turn increasing the time spent alive. And the public perceives us in that way. The public has continuously viewed pharmacy as a good profession for our society. While nurses are always like at the top list of most honest and ethical people that exist in our country, which, by the way, nurses, way to go. You've been doing a very good job at that. Pharmacists are consistently rated high or very high in honesty and ethical standards for the last 20 some odd years. But recently, the value of pharmacists has come under fire, and it is shaking us to our core. If you talk to any pharmacist now that works in the mainstream, we kind of have a sense of self-pessimism. We kind of feel like we are thrown in the basement. We're not valued. We are relegated to jobs that seem like we're not really practicing pharmacy at times. Not everyone feels that way, but many people do. And if you don't feel that way about your job, I'm sure you know someone who does. If you look at almost any depiction of a pharmacist in, say, a sitcom, it's almost always a negative one where you go, how is that guy paid $120,000? It doesn't make sense. And what seems to be happening in our profession is there's like this self-justification process that's going on where we're having to justify our value. If you look at like the literature about pharmacists and services related to pharmacy, it's always about like how we're saving money or how we're earning money with clinical services. And it's like we're always trying to prove for decades now that we provide value. And yet, by and large, our society hasn't really implemented what pharmacists can actually do. We're slowly getting there, but at the same time, we're also taking steps back. If you haven't heard already, there was a fake pharmacist in California that had approved over 700,000 scripts over a period of a few years, if not, I think it was about a decade. And what's funny about this is the way she got caught was by pre-approving, I think, some opioids or benzodiazepines early. But as far as we know at this point, no harm had come from her doing those things. I believe she had given immunizations. She had done basically tech for 10 years. And if this wasn't the largest case study for safety and efficacy of tech in the retail setting, I don't know what else could be. And I don't want to claim ownership of that correlation, because I actually heard this while at APHA conference, that someone had said that while in discussion about the value of pharmacy and what it means for our future. Because while it looks like a bad publicity thing for Walgreens, I don't know if that's what's happening or not, but it sure would seem to me like the guys behind the curtains they're rubbing their hands together and saying, "Oh boy, we're gonna make so much money getting rid of pharmacists in the pharmacy." Because if a tech pretended to be a pharmacist for like 10 years and got away with it in large part, why are they paying pharmacists to do that role? And you can argue that this isn't right, that she wasn't really practicing pharmacy. She wasn't really doing what a pharmacist does. And I agree with those things. But what this showcases is that the systems that are in place have ruled out the old roles of the pharmacist, the dispensing roles, the checking, the filling of the pill bottles. Those things are gone. And as probably they should be. We have advanced as a profession and we are moving slowly to services, but the public doesn't understand that yet. Did you know that thousands of years ago, doctors were slaves? They were usually a part of a family and they helped the health of all those people that were in their large families. But doctors were not perceived as a very valued part of society. They weren't paid well. It was usually a low middle-tier class job, one which really hadn't like a great future. But society has changed. We now value doctors significantly. We see them as leaders in the healthcare system. And the healthcare system is responsible for the livelihood, the happiness, and so much of our quality of life in our society, that they are well paid for said roles. Of course, there is always ranges, right, from physicians in primary care offices to surgeons. There's quite a wide gap there. And as pharmacists, we're seeing that our value is changing. We're seeing that technology is replacing those old roles of what we used to do, and it's doing it for much cheaper. And the companies, of course, they're not going to want to pay us to do those old things when they can pay a robot to do it for much less. If you're unemployed, or if you're employed and you're seeing this chaos around you go on in the job marketplace, this is your call to action to find a way to create value. Look at the problems that exist in healthcare. There are so many problems, and there are a few companies that are trying to solve these problems. I mean, I find it amazing that only in the last few years did PillPack come into existence. The technology behind PillPack is not extremely advanced. I mean, it's not like AI technology or cryptocurrency. And this isn't trying to bash PillPack, but just think about that idea of what he created. I find it fascinating that it took us this long to create it. And I believe the company was bought by Amazon for an absurd, ungodly amount of money. Well, that was just finding a problem that exists and still exists to this day in the marketplace. Why couldn't you go and create that solution? How can you learn some skills to solve more problems? Because the problems of just checking scripts and approving things and making sure that things are safe, those things will be replaced one day. You will not have value as a pharmacist if that is all that you do now. You can learn new skills and you can become more marketable in the job place. And I implore you, please don't wait for you to be replaced. I just talked with a pharmacist the other day that was let go because of a Shopko closing down. If you have never heard, it's basically a Walmart knockoff. It started out of Green Bay, Wisconsin area, Kenosha, I think, or something like that. And all of the pharmacists were let go within the last few months. And he doesn't know where to go because the Walgreens, the Rite Aids, they don't want to hire them. They already have new grads that they can pay for a lot less than what all of these experienced pharmacists have done over the last few years. Please take action today and to grow yourself, to create a more valuable you, whether that's learning how to do something on the side as a consultant, or it's creating a skill like becoming a CDE or getting a certification and finding yourself into a place where, hey, I can use my knowledge now in this new workplace and provide a service. If you want to start this journey, I implore you to check out our mini course on the subject at thehappypharmd.com/start. In this course, I talk all about what it takes to find that skill and to get into a new job role. It's super simple, it's easy, it's a video series, and there's a lot more inside than what I'm letting on. But for now, I encourage you to think about your value. Value is always changing. We are not guaranteed anymore 6 figures coming out of college. And that's because things are changing rapidly. So you as a student, as a new grad, as an unemployed pharmacist, as an employed pharmacist, you have to think about what it is that will make you stand out from the crowd. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of our podcast, and I'll see you in the next one.